So today we're going to be talking about the 2018 recommended operating and capital budget. We've got a workshop scheduled for today to discuss the mayor's recommended budget. You've all seen it. There's copies available online as well. Timeline. We're about halfway through the process now. We've had one public hearing already. We'll have a second public hearing at the meeting on November 29th, and then our anticipated adoption date is December the 13th. But just for today, looking back to 2017, we wanted to really just talk briefly about some of the things that have gone on. We've been able to put 3 additional police officers on the street with the 3 tons public safety tax. We've changed the way we operate corrections. There's 2 additional staff there. Also some changes to the pay scale. Made a number of improvements to the parks. If you haven't been to Sam Bend Park, you really should. It looks amazing. And also we've partnered with the Council of Governments to complete a capital facilities plan. So we look forward to completing that in 2018. We did start it this year. And the levy project is going to be huge. This is a real legacy project, I think, for this council. And the savings that are going to come to the citizen on this are going to be tremendous. We also instituted performance measures in our last budget, not yet management of that by performance. And then the big one, we got the budget award for our budget document in 2017. So the new normal, I guess going forward, we see revenues in 2017 exceeding our expectations by about 1 to 2%. And expenditures are going to come in about 3% below budget. And that's a real compliment to the department heads that we have and the ability they have to review their budgets and stay within it. And looking forward, we're going to have a net addition to the general fund of about $1 million. And we propose to invest those additions in some projects in 2018 that are going to include abatements, some improvements to parking, both at City Hall and at the police department. And then we'd like to also talk to you about changing the way we manage at the executive level. In 2018, there is a challenge. We are limited to 1% increase in property taxes. That's no secret. Obviously, our cost of living is going up over 3% this year, and we're funding that with 1% property tax increase, which is less than $30,000. If you were to look at payroll alone, it's going to increase almost $100,000. So you can see that doesn't go very far. We've added a city administrator in this budget, and we've looked at adding that for 10 months. We basically feel that's going to be the hiring calendar. It's going to add approximately $166,000 to the general fund budget. As far as expenses, we're looking at 911 services are going to essentially double. There's a number of projects that they would like to tackle this year, and they want to fund that with current revenues. So they've proposed to increase their budget by almost 100%, which translates down to about $191,000 increase for the city of Aberdeen. We're going to increase abatements. We really think there's an opportunity to work with Public Works and really start cleaning up neighborhoods and getting aggressive about that. So we've added some expenditures there as well. The ARM support to hire an executive director and then also to to begin the Main Street process is going to be in about a $60,000 increase next year into our budget. But we feel that this money will come back to us in the form of sales tax increases and new business downtown. We've also looked at claims management services. So these are professionals who are our advocate on workmen's compensation issues. So if you've looked at the city of Aberdeen, our experience rating is very high compared to our peers. We think it's time to professionally get involved in reducing that. And this is a firm that's got doctors and lawyers on staff and will manage claims, get people back to work in a manner that we are just not able to with our staff today. We think that's a wise investment that will come back to us in future years. And then I mentioned the capital needs earlier. We're going to try to really increase the safety at the police department, not only for police vehicles, but for personal vehicles, and then also at the city level to increase traffic flow to and from City Hall, as well as improve the parking for our employees here. And then the big one I mentioned, the legacy project, is our streets and levees that we're going to invest in the transportation benefit district, and then also the levee project that's going to really improve insurance ratings, flood prevention, those kinds of instances in the city of Aberdeen. So we are optimistic, though. I've showed this slide before. We do have our foot on the gas on the economy here in Grace Harbor. We have very low interest rates, housing's affordable, gas prices are low, inflation is low. So there's every sign indicating us that the economy is ready to grow. And we're starting to see that now. We've seen approximately 7% increase year over year in sales tax. And not only that, but the sales tax is in areas where it's not luxury items. It's items that are day to day. So we believe that people are generating that increase with their current expenditures, current revenues, and not one-time purchases. So we see mixed signals in the broader economy, but I think our local economy here is really beginning to recover. There is some lag in some city revenues, ambulance being the one. It's really tough to fund that business on Medicare payments when they do not cover all of our expenditures. But we've got some plans in mind to fix that going forward, and getting some help with the feds on that. So we think there may be a light at the end of that tunnel, but we're optimistic about our local economy. Looking ahead to sales tax history, as I mentioned before, the 2017 has been a banner year for us. You can see we've had highs in a number of the months, all-time highs, beginning in about May, even into March. And this has continued to grow, as I mentioned before, 7% over what we had in 2016, which wasn't a bad year. So you can see we're really optimistic about the direction the economy is heading here, and what that looks like going forward. In the mayor's recommended budget, we continue to try to reflect in our budget the values and the priorities that the citizens have and what we hear. And what we're hearing them say is they want a city administrator. They want better communication from the executive branch. They want better management from the executive branch, and to get some of these projects done. They want us to preserve our core services. Those are, again, police and fire, water and sewer. Continue with performance measures, so to tell them how we're doing and to report that information. And to continue it again, as I mentioned before, to build on that strong foundation of 2016 and 2017 and continue that strong fiscal management. So this budget does that. It has a number of capital needs that are funded. We have included a 1% cost of living adjustment. We put employees on a lower tier medical this year, so there's some savings in there as well. We have no increase in water, sewer, and storm rates in this budget, so we're keeping those flat again for the second year in a row. There's $1.07 month increase in EMS, and as I mentioned before, this is a tough business to be in, but this keeps us whole. And with the changes that we see coming down, we believe that we may actually be able to reduce this rate in the future if all holds true. And you're going to see a slight property tax reduction based upon the growth in assessed value in the city. So as I mentioned before, the city administrator is our big one, and this is where we, again, are really trying to listen to our citizens, listen to our constituents, and solve what we believe is a big issue at the city. This is a professional manager. So this is someone who's going to come in with management experience, who's going to be able to plan, lead, organize the staff, get messages out. Cities are complicated. We're highly regulated. This is not a business that we can run with a part-time executive manager. This is a business that, again, is very complicated and takes some true talented executive staff to manage. We're a $50 million business, and we can't do that with a part-time executive. We also believe this is a real resource for the council. So this is where we can communicate upwards to the council about issues. They can communicate downward. That can get filtered back to the mayor, and that communication can really be a true two-way street. We can communicate about projects that are going on in neighborhoods, and also some policy issues that we want to implement or change, and really believe that this is a way that we can accomplish that. It's again one central point of contact. So if you haven't seen the mayor's mail, he gets everything from mail about aliens are in Aberdeen to I need the pothole fixed on my street. And it's overwhelming. So this is a place where one communication can be directed and then it can be distributed out to there. So if it's a pothole issue, if it's a complaint about neighborhoods, it can go to one place and it can get solved from there. It doesn't have to go to the mayor's desk and wait for him to get into the office and get there. He's there 8 hours. This executive will be there 8 hours a day, 5 days a week to handle issues. This is also our representative, whether that be at social clubs or at the legislature or at the federal level, asking for line items into their budget. But this is our one representative, our face of the city, that's out there pushing the agenda, communicating with citizens and yourselves. Also, there's a lot of issues there where we believe that if in the event of emergency, we really need to have one face on this. So whether that be another flood or the potential earthquake that's out there, this is a person that'll be incident trained, that can communicate with our leaders at the state level and communicate directions to citizens and staff. Also, this levee project is enormous. We really need to have some more professional staff driving this. We've got an amazing city engineer right now, but that's not the only thing they do. And it would be nice to have some direction and a place to bounce ideas going forward with this. We're partnering with another city to build a levee system around our two cities. And again, this is a big legacy project for the council going forward. Also, to get continue to work on grants and economic development. This is, again, the place that would land if a major employer comes to town and wants to talk about sites or workforce. This is a place where we think that person is able to communicate directly one-on-one with a person and get answers. It's also a place where this person can work on grants and know what's out there and communicate with you on which ones are appropriate for us to apply to and which ones aren't. We also looked at the top 110 cities in Washington, and this is everything from Seattle at 750,000 population down to Airway Heights at about 6,500 in population. There's one city left that doesn't have either a full-time mayor or a city administrator, and that's Aberdeen. And that's just the way cities are run now. Again, we're highly regulated. It's very complicated and takes a lot of time. There's a lot of demands on the services, and that's how cities are run. Incidentally, we also looked at, there were 20 cities that had both a mayor, full-time mayor, and a city administrator. There were another 30 cities that had a deputy city administrator. So it's the way cities are run. They're run like a business now, and to get real results, that's the executive management that we feel we need. This is a slide I had hoped to include that would show the levy rates that we're hoping to include in the budget next year. However, they're not available yet, so we'll hopefully have a presentation in the future about that. So again, some of the major projects that are coming into the general fund, we continue to maintain our reserves over 120 days. We've mentioned before that we're highly tied to sales tax and economic activity. We have very big reserves in the general fund, and that's the reason, is we're over half funded by sales tax and B&O taxes. So again, a small blip, a small change in the economy can have huge ripples effects in our budget. So that's why we like to keep those reserves there. We've included a council special projects fund, and we've funded it with $20,000. So this is a fund that is the council's money. We'll set it up so that it takes a majority vote to get the money out, but it can be used for projects that you want to undertake. So if there's a sidewalk project that you'd like to do, or perhaps the scouts would like to tackle a project in our community that needs funding or perhaps supplies, that's an area that you can tap. You don't have to tell me to go find the money. We've got the money there right now. And then the new position, the city administrator, we made this really easy. We funded it half out of the general fund, 25% out of water, and 25% out of sewer. And again, we're not exactly sure where this person will have their time spent going forward, but we believe in 2018 this is a good start, and then we can modify it from there. But just to make it real simple, we took half out of the general fund and half out of the utilities. So some other capital projects that we have carried over, we have obviously the Timberworks Master Plan, which is a fancy name for our levee project. The Mork Hotel continues to be out there, we'll carry that over. And then the new projects are that City Hall parking lot and then the police parking lot. And I think this is really going to help alleviate some of the concerns from our public safety officers over there next door, as well as City Hall here. It could obviously use some additional lighting and additional parking, but the traffic flow I think is going to be a big help to customers as well. Just looking at our debt service, in 2018 we're going to make just over $2.7 million in debt service payments. This is primarily revenue debt, which means water and sewer funded by rates. And I've included the Stafford Creek loans in here, which are paid by the state. So this is a number that you're not going to see entirely paid out of the budget, but this is what we are showing as debt service payments on our annual reports. We'll end 2018 with $4.5 million in debt, and this is just a little under $400 per man, woman, and child in Aberdeen. So it's not a really big number. It's actually pretty low compared to our peers, and kind of exciting. It gives us some capacity to do things if we need to, but our debt load is very low for a city our size. So to summarize, we're not quite calling it a comeback yet. As I mentioned before, the new normal may be this slow 2 to 3% growth in the economy. So we're seeing some big growth numbers in sales tax, but we're not ready to commit to all of that next year. We're actually only showing a slight increase over what we anticipate we would forecast for this year. So we're not getting real aggressive with sales tax, but I think we're being very realistic. The budget is increased primarily for cost of living adjustments, and we're again using some of the prior year's additions to the fund balance to fund things like the executive management that we talked about, that city administrator, and that's the one big FTE. My favorite slide here is the price of government. So what we do is we take all of the revenues the city receives in taxes, fees, and rates, and we divide that by the total personal income of all the Aberdeen citizens. And the number you like to be at is that 5 to 5.5%. And if you can look at 2018, we're going to be below that. So what this tells us is that the price that citizens in Aberdeen pay for their government, they're getting a good deal. So this is encouraging. Cities like Seattle's and Tacoma's would love to have a price of government like this. But as you can see, we've got some good numbers coming out of this. Any questions, I'd be glad to answer them for you.